The following transmission contains unencrypted instances of explicit language. Mature audiences are cleared to proceed.
Shall we begin? Let's begin.
Welcome back. This is part 2 of our tradecraft analysis of the Day of the Jackal. In part 1, we discussed the Jackal's plan to kill French President Charles de Gaulle. If you missed out on that, there's a simple solution. You might want to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app so you can always stay caught up with us.
The reason we paused our discussion of the Jackal's plan where we did is because the French hotel sequence is the first time that his plan actually intersects with the investigation being undertaken by the authorities. So what we'll do here is first take a look at how the investigators proceeded from virtually zero information to having actual knowledge of the Jackal's whereabouts. From there, the cat and mouse game will go into high gear, and that's what's coming up in this episode of Spies Like Us. Now we're going to leave the Jackal alone for a bit, and we're going to rewind in time and take a look at the investigation. Basically, the people who are in charge of trying to stop him from doing the assassination. Now, like the Jackal said, you know, like these top OAS guys need to be like super hiding out, but the top brass on the French side, I mean, they do know who these guys are,
right?
So it's really important that they like hole up in a hotel, like under like just super heavy guard. Their major thing is like, we just need to be isolated, super compartmentalized. But that in itself is something that doesn't escape the SDECE's notice. So they're very keen on, they're looking at this and they're saying like, why are they acting so fucking weird? Why are they acting so cagey? And so they really put the lens on him and try to figure out what's going on. They'll see that there is, I'll call him, well, he's the courier. We could also call him Walensky. And,
yeah, that was his name, yeah.
Right.
Walensky.
And he's the white-haired guy. He was at the meeting in Venice when they first hired the Jackal, but he wasn't inside the room. But he just seems to be like a super trusted, like, not in the inner circle, but like their main man that they trust to do stuff. And so the SDECE sees that guy comes in and out of the place they're hiding out every day, with a handcuffed briefcase, and that he posts his letters into the post box like only like right before the truck is gonna show up. So plus spy points for not, you know, letting those letters sit around.
Yeah. I really wanted to kind of point out the government surveillance on Walensky was great. I really enjoyed watching that. I think it was super tight. And like you had said, they noticed that why are they hiding in their cave? And what's up with this dude with the handcuff? And watching that really, like, you know, I'm going to say this on the whole podcast. I was like, there's a lot of this movie where it's like, this is how you do it, right? Mm-hmm. You know? So I really enjoyed watching the surveillance on Walensky.
A fun fact about Walensky is that he's played by an actor named Jean Martin. Mm-hmm. And in the Battle of Algiers movie in 1966, that same actor plays a character of a different name, but a French colonel of the paratroopers that are like pivotal in that movie. So it's just a fun casting choice.
Yeah.
Because like the same let's see, how do you put that? Like the same actor played one of the characters in a different movie that would have been the kind of guy that after the Battle of Algiers would have been this kind of guy, you know, like
that would have joined the OAS.
Right.
Yeah. That's a really nice fun fact about that actor. That's a gem right there. Yeah.
It's the Jean Martin cinematic universe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, nice.
After they watch him for a while, they nab him and they interrogate him, not softly.
Mm-mm.
And that's everything we have been reading up about in preparation for this podcast, is that the SDECE is indeed not afraid of getting their hands dirty in the interrogation room. They beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. I did like the carpet truck on how they got Walensky. They just pretended to be a carpet truck, and as he walked by, they knocked him out and threw him in the truck. I thought that was fun. Yeah. But one of the things I really did enjoy, after they interrogate him, and
he doesn't give up anything. Like he holds up under torture, but
right.
Some words or names like slightly escape his bloodied lips.
Yeah. So he never actually makes a confession, quote unquote, even though they say that later in the film that Walensky was caught and confessed about the Jackal.
But that's not correct.
I don't think it's correct. I think that's just what they presume. What actually happens, and this is what I really liked about this movie, because we don't see this in most spy films. They listen to the tape over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and they hear a word Jackie, and they're like, Jackie. Wait, no, it's Jackal or whatever. We get like a whole like very quick shot, maybe like 20 seconds of them at a chalkboard.
Yep, I love the chalkboard. Like the
trying to brainstorm.
Creased.
Yeah,
like creased. Is it a name? Is it a
place?
Yeah. You know,
right.
Is this, does this refer to a place? Could this be a name? Is like what, you know, they're just like, they just have a few like vague expressions of like phrases or words from him, but without context. And they just go over it and over it and over it. I loved it. And I know you did too.
No, it was great because what I was going to say is we never get analysts or like analysis in most spy films, and sometimes instead of it actually being analysis, it's like a big speech with a bunch of people in a room, you know, a great cinematic moment. But we actually get to watch them kind of brainstorm, and I mean, it's not completely accurate analysis, but the fact we got dudes on a chalkboard like, is this a place? Is it a name? Is it a guy? Is it a tool? You know, and they're like actually brainstorming at the chalkboard, like drawing out maybe like thought charts and stuff. Like, I really liked it, so I was really happy. So plus spy points and plus spy movie points for David.
Yeah, absolutely. Jackal. I'm giving that my best, my number 3 best tradecraft of this film is the way
that's a good one.
The interrogation is analyzed. So due to their diligence, they piece together a few words that they managed to figure out like that creased was indeed like a reference to the hotel in Vienna where Walensky again had been present but not inside the room where the OAS hired the Jackal. So from there, by interrogating the desk clerks, they find out that the 3 OAS honchos, who everyone knows who they are, were there, and that they were visited by a well-groomed, fair-haired man in mid-30s. And so now they've got at least some kind of description of who they might... I mean, right now, all they know is... I mean, they don't know there's an assassination plot.
Right.
But their hands are very much tied here. You know, de Gaulle, which the Jackal predicted in his meeting with them. He said, like, de Gaulle won't let his dogs off the leash in a public manhunt, like, I guess because that would make him look weak or something, I guess was the thinking there. But he's correct. because the guys in the room, the ministers, they're definitely, feeling very hamstrung by the fact that de Gaulle won't let them just like, go out there and start, I don't know, kicking down doors or whatever.
Right, or sending out to publish in the media, like, here's a picture of a guy. If you see this man, say something because it's a big deal, So the secrecy was really important for a majority of the film.
Right. So they're really like kind of brainstorming. I mean, I love this. There's this one guy that just keeps coming up with the well, maybe it's this, and it's always like his idea is always like maybe we don't really have to worry about it.
Right.
And everyone's like, no, this is serious. But we have nothing to go on. Nothing to go on. It's a blank slate. We got no name. Like the one guy explains, we got no name. We've only got a vague description. We got no passport. We have no idea what the plan is. Nothing. And what are we going to do? And the guy's like, well, what would you do? And the guy's like, you got to put a master detective on this case. And who's that? Michael Lonsdale.
Yeah.
Who doesn't show up until a full 50 minutes into the film. Now, of course, it is a long film. It's 220?
I think it was 245.
No.
It's long, bro. It's really long. 223. Okay. Yeah. I guess technically 223. Yeah.
I don't think it feels long.
It didn't once I got into it when I first started watching and I was looking at the time and I was like, and then like that botched assassination attempt, I was like, ugh. And then like a lot of the setup, but once it starts kicking, it goes by real fast. You're like, wow, this is
it accelerates.
Yeah.
I would say that about this film, and that's gonna go into my my star rating as well. Like this movie builds momentum.
Quite a bit, and it constantly is going
slow.
up.
Right? Yeah. And the clocks are constantly being shoved in your face.
Right.
So yeah, Lonsdale's gonna come in, and he's gonna be our. I don't want to say our protagonist. There's not really a protagonist thing. It's a spy versus spy movie. It's basically the Jackal versus Lonsdale.
Yeah.
I think we are rooting for both equally. I think we're actually rooting for the Jackal most of the film, though, right?
I'm rooting for Lonsdale the whole time. I agree that we're rooting for both because it's just so exciting. And I loved how Lonsdale literally had zero. Like, goes from like everyone in the world is a suspect, narrowing it down each step of the way, which is getting closer and closer to the Jackal's tail. And that really contributed to the momentum and acceleration of like the tension in the film because they start getting closer. They're right there and oops, he gets away. But they're like still on the path, and right there and oops, he gets away. But they're getting closer. They know who this guy is, and I really enjoyed it. And so the whole time I'm rooting for Lonsdale, especially since he got called out from work, from home. And the wife's like, be home by 9. He's like, I don't know.
It's like, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah. And it's just like, he shows up. And I love how like dismissive the board is about him. And this is like probably the best detective in history, Like, and he's just so collective and professional. And he's actually French, And like I really enjoyed it a lot, so I was definitely rooting for Lonsdale because he had like nothing, and had to narrow down every step of the way.
Yeah, and speaking of starting up from nothing, I think it's admirable that he just sets up his office and he tells his boss like, okay, look, I am gonna need to have at least one aide, and he is gonna have to be told. Like,
right.
I know you said like, I can't tell anyone, but like I need at least one dude. And so we get that one like cute blonde guy that helps him out with the phones and stuff.
When he specifically asked for him, I want this person, kind of like in Tinker Tailor when
it very much reminded me exactly. I was like, this is the Cumberbatch. This is the Cumberbatch of the film.
I'm sure Jean-Luc Carré might have picked up on this a little bit. There's probably some cross-pollination amongst the spy writers.
And with nothing to go on, he just says like, okay, well, let's, and he gives us the instructions. We're going to set up direct contacts with 7 countries that he thinks an international assassin would be most likely to come from.
Right.
And a coffee machine. Plus spy
pants. Yeah. Don't forget the coffee. And I think they needed linens. Like, he was ready to set up camp. Like, we're gonna be here for a while. Like, we need like some shaving. Like, he goes through a full list.
Oh, they're sleeping the fuck out of this office. Like, he doesn't. You never see him leave it. No. To go home or to check into a hotel until he gets like information to go on.
And then he goes to the meeting and comes back to his camp, So, yeah, they're definitely roughing it.
Yep. I like him. Him too. But of the 7 countries, which, obviously a lot of information might have come in from, but, we got to focus the movie in some direction. So we're going to focus the most on like what they get from the Scotland Yard special branch.
Yeah, I think his question was like, talk to these agencies in these 7 countries and let me know if there's like a high class assassin or someone that would make sense that's on their radar that we could start, because we know it's going to be an international one, but he's got to have a record somewhere. So if we're going to start anywhere, let's talk to the big agencies in these 7 countries and see if they're like aware of any contract killers that's on their radar. And they get something.
And for a while, we follow like kind of a subplot of the British guy that they've contacted, and he makes his own inquiries amongst different people. He lands on the idea that this might be someone that the special services or the foreign service would know about, and that's how he eventually gets to a
park bench alert.
Love us some park benches in spy movies, and that's where we get the guy from the foreign service mentioning to our little sub character, like, a rumor, just a rumor. I mean, we got nothing, dude. I mean, we really got nothing, but there was maybe floating around this idea that a certain recent assassination in Dominica might have been made by an Englishman. That guy's name is Charles Calthrop. And the guy's like, really? That's all you got? And here's one I don't like. I'm not going to give it minus spy points. I'm just going to give it an LOL, where he spells out on the newspaper, okay, so Charles Calthrop, take the first 3 letters of each of those, you get CHACAL, French word for jackal.
Yeah. And then I think our commissioner just gives him a look like, really?
Really? Like, yeah, that's all you got?
Like, I am so done with this. Like, but yeah, no, that was pretty funny.
It turns out to be interesting, though. Like, when they look into it, now, I get a little weird here on, like, I don't exactly know how passports work, but what's reported in the film is that they find that, okay, so following up on the Calthrop, just in case, 23 passports have been issued to him over the last 5 years. That does sound strange. Mm. Is that how passports work? I thought that's visas. Like, you have one passport and you get visas issued to you.
Well, you could get replacement ones.
Okay.
Or something, I guess. I don't know, but that's a lot, yeah. And I don't know, is
so yeah, but what they state in the film is that he's gotten 23 passports issued to him in the last 5 years.
And they noticed there's no exit stamp from Dominica, but there's an entrance stamp. And, we had pointed out the exit and entrance. If you've ever flown internationally, they stamp your passport when you get there and then when you leave, so that you could show, hey, this is where you left and this is where you came from. They could find a trail, even if you didn't go directly there and back, like let's say you had like multiple flights to multiple countries, you're going to get the stamps, right? So they could follow the trail. They're like, this guy never left Dominica. How the hell is he in whatever?
Right.
So
And Dominica was the place that an assassination took place.
Right.
And then they have to wonder, like, well, like, I mean, you could assume he's still in Dominica, but that doesn't super make sense. They make the smarter assumption that he's traveling somehow under a different passport. Like the trail went dead there, and that he left Dominica under a different passport. And again, this like goes to the whole like this was a new concept
Yeah.
at the time.
Right.
Yeah, which is really fun. They put all their, I mean, for a time, the investigation, the whole thing, they put everything on the Calthrop tip. They put his name and picture everywhere in France, and they're still looking for him in other countries. I'm not sure that they got a physical description of Calthrop that matched the blonde mid-30s guy that they knew had visited the OAS guys in Vienna.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when the Jackal gets pulled into the crossing of the border into France that I really slept on this one so many times.
Yeah.
I finally realized, like, it's actually hilarious, and it's the closest this movie ever comes to making a joke, and it is actually kind of funny. Like, all the guys in the station look something like the Jackal.
Right. It's just a line of dudes that look just like the right height, right build, right hair, right face. It's cute. I liked it a lot. Yeah.
But also you have like that one short dude with a mustache. Yeah. And you have like this older guy in the background that also kind of maybe looks like the Jackal. And on review, it reminded me so much, like the reason I laugh at it is when I think about like the Citadel in Rick and Morty with like all the different versions of Rick.
Yeah. I love that line where he's just like, "You guys hated government, so you made yourselves a stupid government." Yeah, that's a good one. It was just all like, it was all just jackals in the border patrol station. No, that's cute. Yeah.
I think someone makes a leap of logic at this point. I mean, it's a good one, but again, they're trying to figure out how could this guy be traveling around when his passport dead ended in Dominica. Someone just makes the leap of inspiration of go ahead, find all the passport applications for the last 3 months and check them against death certificates, not birth certificates, death certificates. And like somebody kind of figured out like how the Duggan passport could have been forged. Now, Special Branch does find eventually, through a lot of man work, the Duggan passport match, but it's just too late to have stopped him at the French border. But they will, I mean, it's too late for them to have stopped him there, but they're still going to get the information back, on a delay.
Of what he looked like or where he was going.
Right, yeah. They'll find out that the Duggan passport pinged, which in the modern day, like in the Bourne movies, like we would expect that to happen in seconds. But, in 1973, this is happening over the course of like hours or maybe like half a day at least.
Yeah, right.
Because just people got to look at papers and they don't have computers and they have to pick up a phone and they have to say, "Hey, Secretary Sally, get me blah, blah, blah on line 1.
Yeah. Or they got to get books. Like they checked all the passport applications and deaths. They were looking at books of like,
the amount of, I mean, just, the amount of manpower they have to do to go through records is like just it's funny how not anachronistic. It's I don't know. It's just of its time.
Yeah.
It's definitely a pre-internet movie.
Right.
Although, did you notice, like, dude, cop had a, like, we haven't got there yet, but like that one cop that finds the crashed car, he's got a phone in his car.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, which is pretty interesting for the time.
Good on him. So yeah, so the reason we brought it here was, like, again, because the Jackal, all his plans like go 1, 2, 3, blah blah blah, and all the investigation goes 1, 2, 3, blah blah blah. But here is the first point where the Jackal's plan and the investigation possibly intersects. He has just found out that the Duggan passport is blown. So from this point, we might be seeing some adaptation of the plan.
So he checks into this hotel using Duggan. And, like you said, he had just found out that they're on his tail. So a lot of this is really weird. He sees this lady in the lounge that he's kind of like taken with, and he starts hitting on her. And she like has to go to bed or whatever and doesn't want to talk to him. He's obviously hitting on her, and she's like, "Oh, I have to be up early." And she kind of ditches him. Then this old lady dies randomly, and he takes the opportunity to look up her name in the book. And I don't know if the old lady dying was a coincidence or if he killed her, because he kills a lot of people ruthlessly. So I wouldn't be surprised that he like slipped her some poison so that there would be a big, hoorah and like people crowding around, so he'll have time to look at the registry of where the
that seems like a long way to go to a short distance of just being able to, just murdering someone just so you can get a peek at the registry of the hotel.
Other than that, I can't figure out any other reason why this scene happened other than it's a coincidence and he takes advantage of it, and this goes into our improvisation. But like there's a couple times in the film where I think like the author gave like a bone to the investigation. Like, here's a freebie, and the idea of him like chasing Colette to get some tail like really bothers me. But then I'm like, well, wait a minute, no, this guy's kind of a psychopath, like contract killer, no regard for human life. He just found out that his cover's blown ish, or they're on his tail. So he might be nervous, so he's kind of blow off some steam, So, but I do want to mark this as my number 2 worst tradecraft. Is sleeping with Colette in the first place. Like, this ends up becoming a problem for him later, and this is a pretty serious mission that he's on. And, I mean, even if you want to be like, okay, well, people are human, and they spend some time, like alone by themselves a lot, and this is a good opportunity for him to kind of blow off some steam. But yeah, that's where I'm marking it. It was just a weird, the whole hotel thing was weird.
When I first saw the movie, and the way I remembered the movie was, I actually thought this was one of the coolest parts of the movie. What I thought was that he hadn't ever checked into the hotel, and that he just went straight to the bar planning on seducing some woman. So, I mean, that's kind of weird.
That would have been really cool. Yeah.
That he can pull it off. Cause I don't know. The Jackal doesn't look handsome by today's standards. Although let's be honest. The man looks good without a shirt. I mean, there's no denying that. But but that this was a whole play for him to be able to stay in a hotel, not be registered, and therefore fly under the radar. And that's what I thought. But then doing this podcast, doing the analysis, I looked back and he did actually register. And everything points to the fact that he did register. So I go back to the fact he just found out his passport has been blown. And what's his first move? Now, again, we never are allowed inside the mind of the Jackal in this movie. We just get to watch him from outside and infer his plan from what we see him do.
Yeah.
So we can't know if this was the hotel in his original plan that he'd always planned to stay at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see in the movie any reason for him to sleep with Colette. And the old lady dying, that's also just seems like weird.
Right.
Okay, I'm ready to move on, except to say one thing, which I absolutely must say. Once they find the hotel checks, they're like, oh, okay, Duggan, he checked into this hotel. Go, 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 go. They show up at the hotel, and the clerk tells them, oh, he checked out at 11. Now, David.
Right.
You know me. I'm not an international assassin.
No, not even close. Neither am I.
I gotta say, like, if I just crossed over into a foreign country and I know that my passport is blown, I might get up a little bit earlier than
11. Yeah, that's like the last minute of checkout time usually at a hotel is 11 at noon. And I usually get to the last minute when I've like been drinking all night, like at a convention, and it's like Sunday, after we partied Saturday night, like, damn well I'm getting late checkout and I'm leaving like the last minute I have to be out of there, right?
Right. Yeah.
But no. Yeah, but no, like
situation though, like I'm up at 5:30.
Yeah, 5:36. I'm out the door. Like I'm already working on like where my next stay is at. Like I'm getting out of there. Like I'm over. Oh, sorry, I have a very busy day. Must be on. Like it's No, I agree with you.
So there's that. There's that. The hotel scene. I don't want to give any of it minus spy points. I just think it's huge, like missed opportunity points for something really cool to have happened. There's so many moving parts in that hotel part that could have meant something, but when you really look at it, it's just another day. So yeah, he'll check in again with his super secret phone number. Find out that the cops have a description of his car. So he's gonna need to trade that one out. He finds, of course, the car of the little makeout couple on the side of the road.
Steals their plates and then goes to change them, and he does a whole new paint job on the car. So I thought plus spy points on that one.
Yeah, I liked it. Although let's be clear that that kind of job, it's not going to pass inspection on on a checkpoint.
Right.
I mean, but it's also won't attract notice if you're just driving past someone.
Yeah, exactly. They're not gonna. A patrol on the road is probably not gonna. I mean, they might spot the model, but they'll be like, "Oh, that's not the right color."
And then he's driving like crazy and yawning. So again, dude, I mean, you slept in until fucking 11. I mean, I know you stayed up all night banging Colette, and I'm sure it was worth it,
Yeah, right.
But because he's tired and possibly late, he crashes his car after swiping another vehicle. It's an unforced error there,
right?
So he needs to swap cars again.
This is another bone for the detectives. The accident was so pointless. You're right. I mean, okay, you want to blow off some steam and get laid a little bit or whatever, but we get the shot of him yawning, so we know he's tired. So it's not it's not unrealistic that he would get in an accident, especially if you're on this kind of job, right? You're probably going to lose sleep. You're probably going to have trouble sleeping, but still, it was just kind of happenstance. But again, I'm sure this happens in real life all the time. Some crazy elite operatives are on a job and just some asshole hits them, or they're too sleepy and they just like run into somebody. You know, I'm sure there's loads of stories if we ever talk to spies like botched missions because somebody fucked up somewhere, like a car hit them. Some like drunk asshole like just like ran through a red light and hit one of them. You know, like I'm sure there's you know. So it was nice that they put it in the movie, but it felt to me like the storyteller was just giving the detectives another bone. You know.
Oh, right, just to advance the story. You know, I could put out maybe just a minor theory, not to spend too much time on it, but just off the cuff, like ever since he found out that his passport was blown, which is the first time any part of his plan was challenged, is where he starts actually making mistakes.
Yeah.
And he's not just making mistakes like totally fucking up, but he's making small mistakes all of a sudden.
Right, that could cost him or get, you know. Yeah. So it's like the panic is getting to him and the investigation's getting closer and closer, you know, but he's still a professional. So it's kind of nice to see that he's not a machine, even though like a lot of it like has him look like he's just like this like well-oiled machine. Like he still is human. So I kind of like these moments.
Right. Yeah, he's not the Terminator. That's important, I think, for us to be able to root for him in this film. Even though he's definitely like he's got Terminator-esque abilities of being able to just like quickly murder someone with no compulsion. You know, when it's necessary, but there is a weird kind of human quality to him that I can't quite put my finger on, but you know, I don't know. There's something I like Edward Fox in this movie.
Yeah. The cast does a great job. Everybody does a really good job. I really enjoyed a lot of the acting.
He's gonna go back to Colette after the car crash.
No idea why.
Yeah, definitely. Now that definitely can't have been part of his plan. So I don't know.
Other than he might have needed after the accident, he probably needed a place to lay low.
Well, he does get. I mean, one thing he does get from visiting her, is he gets an opportunity to switch from the Duggan identity to the Bloomquist identity, and that involves changing his hair color, changing his clothes, coming out with glasses, and that's not something he could just do in a hotel.
Right. And he also finds out from her that the police like met her and questioned her.
Yeah, but he should have assumed that. I mean, that was ever since he slept with her in the first place, like you did nothing to stop that from happening. And we have to believe he's that smart that he knows.
Oh, so maybe that is why he went back, was to actually kill her and get an opportunity to do the thing.
That's how he gets, also to switch to a new car. But again, like, it's a car he knows, like, there's only so much time before they're going to figure it out, like what car it is. Again, like at this point, like he's, at the beginning of the movie, he's months ahead of them. Later in the movie, he's weeks ahead of them. At this point, he's just hours ahead of them, and the movie will climax with him just being minutes ahead. But from the investigators' perspective, they can trace the car from Colette to a train station. They find out too late about the three men that boarded. Only one of them matches their person of interest. They rush to the train station. I think they should have picked up a phone. Minus spy points.
Mm-hmm.
Just call ahead. Have the station locked down.
Right, yeah. Get some guys up. Well, I mean, it also is supposed to be covert with the whole thing. So maybe. But yeah, they could have called someone. Just lock down the station and not tell anybody why. Get the police out. I'm sure they can make a few phone calls.
Although, I mean, it might be difficult to lock down all trains coming into Paris.
Yeah.
But this train from Nice to like, I still think they could have found they could have locked down stations along the way. So again, they're behind the ball, but they've got a description of his new alias. They know it's a Danish teacher. They're wondering like, okay, well, how could he be traveling around? And this is like where like guy comes up with the idea, well, maybe he stole a passport. Again, it's a leap of logic. It's correct, but it also just seems kind of handy that the investigators figure things out when the movie wants them to figure things out.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so what would I do if I was a Danish professor that lost my passport? Well, I would tell the consulate, so they contact them, and then they're using huge manpower to figure out, like, through all the people who ever reported their passports stolen over the last 3 months, I think. Eventually, they're going to get to a photo of Lundqvist, the guy whose passport was stolen, and that's the guy that the Jackal is currently using his passport in Paris. Now, Lonsdale has suspected a leak ever since the hotel. Again, we don't know what the Jackal's original plans were or his modified plans, but we do know that he checked in for 2 days but left after 1.
So they get a recording of a phone call where Denise has called someone and told them specifically about the that the ministers know about the Danish lookup, like his look, and that he's a school teacher and he's on a fake passport. This is really important because Lonsdale had, when he talked about the information about the Danish school teacher, he was very specific about the details he gave the ministers, and it was only them that he gave that information to. We then later find out when he brings the recording, he'd been tapping everybody's phones because he had suspected a leak. And one of them triggered, and when he played the recording, our guy Sinclair stands up and he's like, I know that voice. That's my friend. She's been staying with me for this time. And he goes, excuse me, and he leaves the room, basically like retiring, I guess. But they asked Lonsdale how he knew whose phone to tap, and he goes, I didn't, so I tapped everybody's, which kind of like reminded me of Miss Sloan, where like she just like tapped everybody's phone. So I wonder if Miss Sloan might have been like influenced by this, but it was great. Like so like this is how he narrowed down. He was like, there's probably a leak. How can I narrow this down? So he kind of creates a bury a meal-ish.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't make fake information.
It's absolutely a barium meal because he only fed the information specifically to these people in this room and nobody else.
Right, and it got out, and so he was able to, and by tapping everybody's phones, he was able to figure out the leak, and they go and arrest the girl. But I do want to mark this as my worst tradecraft number one was the minister. You know, I said this like last episode, was that the minister was telling everything to the chick he was like sleeping with. You know, he just kind of met her. There's this big national security issue. This guy would be the highest like security clearance, I guess, in France, right? He would have been trained for exactly this. Like, don't talk to her. I think we needed it in the movie, and it's probably a good lesson. Like, they probably tell agents to watch this movie. Like, aha, you see? Just because you like this girl doesn't mean you should tell her stuff. You know? Like, and he should have just been screwing her and, like, made stuff up or something. Just kind of, like, told a random story or something. You know, it's just really bad. You know what I mean? Really, really bad. So I'm marking this as my number one worst tradecraft. But I do want to mark my number two best tradecraft was the commissioner tapping all of the phones of the ministry room. Because he was just like, you know, and this is kind of the level of the investigation that it goes. You know, you see like a lot of detective movies and they're just like, aha, elementary. Like I figured it out off of like this one hair strand. No, like they actually do a real investigation through this whole movie. It's like, I want you to go through all the passports in the last 3 months. I want you to go all through all of the things within this time frame. I'll go through all of the things. And right here, I'm going to tap all of the phones of every man in this room to figure out who the leak is. So it's just the amount of work that the investigation requires, while there's this like superstar assassin like on the loose, so this is definitely my best tradecraft number 2, because that tapping of all of those phones and the knowing that the information that he gave was only in that room is how he was able to deduce a leak and was able to stop the leak in its tracks.
Right. Well, I mean, that's easy, low-hanging fruit for minus spy points from me on Denise.
Right.
She's giving her name.
Right.
She's calling from dude's house. This is a reason you use payphones for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, because if she hadn't been making the calls from the house, then Lonsdale would have nothing to tap.
Right.
And she gets caught in that way. They don't get any information from her because she doesn't actually know anything, but at least the leak is plugged and the Jackal is no longer able to access the information from the inner chamber of the investigators, right?
Yes. Which works out really well. I like the shot where it looks like the minister committed suicide and she freaks out and then the commissioner comes in and you're like, you're in a lot of trouble, lady. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Shortly after, somebody, arrives in the hall of the investigators saying, okay, now we know that we've followed up on this missing Danish professor's passport. We know it's Lundqvist. We were able to finally track him down. And he says, okay, we got the photo. I need to flag this. Like, what they have in hand is a photo of the guy, not a photo of the Jackal imitating the guy. I mean, they put the entire force, they seem to trigger on that and say, like, okay, we can just like put this full alert out on here. And then they tell Lonsdale, like, hey, good job. We'll take it from here for no reasons.
Right.
That I can see.
Kick him out. And they were kind of like very dismissive of him. Like, we won't take any more of your time. Yeah. He just sits there until he realizes he's being asked to leave.
Yeah. Intersectional rivalry, I think, takes a play there. But before, and I have a big complaint about this photo thing, but I want you to explain to me what the Jackal is doing for a moment, and then I'm gonna circle back to this photo.
What's really cool is since he knows they're like hot on his tail from all of the tip-offs he's gotten, instead of checking into a hotel, he goes to a Turkish bath, and I guess plans on getting seduced by a man so that he can get called over to his place and doesn't have to check into a hotel. So he's kind of living under the radar. And I presume I don't know what Turkish baths were understood to be back in the 60s, but I guess where like you could.
Oh, it's a yeah. I mean, I think it still is like it's a gay hookup extravaganza.
Right.
Is my understanding.
Oh, okay. Okay. So like he goes there expecting to get hit on and invited back to a dude's place. And I'm going to mark this my number 3 tradecraft or 3 best tradecraft. We had discussed that you thought when you first saw the film that he never checked into the hotel, but he did. But at this point, he knows they're hot on his trail and he can't check into a hotel because they're going to find him everywhere. So what he's going to do is use his good looks and get seduced by a man to go back to his place and, presumably hook up or, as we find out later, he's going to like kill the guy. But I just really thought it was a great idea of him staying under the radar so that they couldn't catch him. So he just like kind of disappears again. So yeah, that made my number 3 best tradecraft.
I want to put a little pin in the idea of like the Jackal as being this ambisexual force that can just use, sexuality that, like, I don't think he's gay. I don't think he's straight. I think he's just like inhuman.
Yeah.
That I really like the idea, that he could just play gay or straight. Like I don't think he was really into Colette. Obviously,
Right.
I mean, just the way he treats her, the way he treats this guy,
Yeah.
it makes him seem like all the more sinister in
Absolutely.
in ways that I like. Here's my thing though. Like the Turkish bath guy, he sees the photo of Lundqvist on a TV screen.
Yeah.
And we see the images, but we don't hear the sound because it's in a TV store. They're showing pictures of Colette. They're showing pictures of her place. Like they're clearly like it's a broadcast that is saying like there's a manhunt. There is a manhunt going on. Like someone has been murdered. And I wondered if in 1963 they had the technology to like put that title bar on the screen. Like when you watch CNN right now, like you can turn on CNN right now or see it in an airport and there could be no volume and they're still like telling you like what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like they got the huge bar at the bottom, like blah, blah, blah. This is going on. This is going on. This is why you should pay attention. I looked at some famous 1963 news footage and I noted that they had the technology, but it was used kind of sparingly. But I still think like the cops should have put like some kind of manhunt on the screen, so that even people that couldn't hear the audio would like pay attention. And I'll give that minus 5 points for the French police. He sees his new boyfriend on the screen. And when he shows up with his groceries, he's like excited, like, "Hey, you're on TV." And then the Jackal is like, "Okay, yeah, you need to die now."
Oh yeah.
In neither case did we see the image that was on the screen. Of
we never see him.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the case where he was looking through the TV store window, we're just seeing his reaction. And then in the apartment, when the same TV story is playing on the TV screen, the camera explicitly and purposefully moves away from the television screen in the apartment so that we can't see like what photograph we're actually looking at. And this is my number 3 worst tradecraft. I'm putting it on the movie, not any particular characters. The only picture that they have access to is the actual Lundqvist. They don't have a picture of the Jackal portraying Lundqvist.
Right. Presumably looks similar enough, I guess.
It's still gonna get my number 3 worst, and especially when I noticed right. Like I think if you watch the scene again, especially in the apartment when he kills Turkish bath guy, I think that they might have shot it a certain way, and at some point someone raised a hand and said like, "Oh hey, I just noticed this makes no sense." And that they like manipulated the shot to kind of help you not notice that it makes no sense.
Yeah.
And I just have to call it. Definitely the Jackal knows that his identity number 2 is also completely blown. We go into the end game. He's going to use his identity number 3 to make the final approach. Around this time, Lonsdale and the ministers have suddenly like slapped themselves in the face and said like, oh my God.
Of course, Liberation Day.
Charles de Gaulle cannot miss this appointment. Even though the Jackal had correctly predicted that de Gaulle would not